All right, YouTube, today we're going to talk about Jonathan Banks, Gennady Golovkin, Abel Sanchez. Look, let me hit play here for a minute before we kick it off. By the way, sub to the channel. I appreciate all the, support lately, guys. I really do. All right, Gennady Golovkin, new trainer. So basically, right? Basically, Gennady Golovkin, you guys know, has a new coach, okay? He wants to pull out the unseen potential, that untapped potential. This is what Jonathan Banks always talks about, okay? Because he says Gennady Golovkin has primarily relied on power. We know that, right? He's a boxer puncher. That's how I would categorize him. Probably more of a puncher than a boxer, but I think his boxing is highly underrated. But anyway, now we're going to see the rebirth. We're going to see the new Gennady Golovkin, again, a puncher slash boxer. Have you seen it? I don't know. So look, the more I think about it, right? Okay, the more it's kind of coming together. Gennady Golovkin, look, he didn't get any better. He just did what he always does, going back to like the Steve Rolls knockout, tough fight with Sergey Darbianenko. So at first I told you guys I was going to give it time, but I feel like, they've had plenty of time to develop that relationship and it's getting worse. I don't see improvements. Jonathan Banks, Gennady Golovkin, like I said, what do they have, like 2 fights now, I think, together, and it's probably the worst that Golovkin has ever looked, right? So if I'm Abel Sanchez right now, I'm kicking back saying, hey, I told you so. If I'm Abel Sanchez, but I'm sure he wishes Golovkin nothing but the best. But you know that there's that little voice in his head, that competitive voice saying, I told you so, right? And here's the thing, guys. Okay, you can't tell me that Golovkin just lost his power, right? I mean, I think the real problem is the training camp and the boxer-coach relationship. Okay, trying to turn a pressure fighter, a seek and destroy fighter, into like a Mayweather 2.0. I mean, how many times have we seen new coaches make this mistake time and time again, trying to turn a puncher into a damn boxer? Okay, especially an aging fighter like Golovkin, just turned 38, about a week ago. Okay, you guys know, highest knockout in knockout percentage in middleweight history, and I believe the highest consecutive knockouts going into the Daniel Jacobs fight. Not to mention nearly breaking Bernard Hopkins' record of a middleweight title defenses. So, what did Abel Sanchez say? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I don't understand what they're doing here. I mean, the way the way they looked at it was, we got this far, so why change something that has worked so well? And I totally agree, right? Nearly came the undisputed champion basically relying on power. So why change it? But now we have a new coach that wants to turn a puncher into a boxer, right? But Banks said, I'm not going to change Gennady Golovkin. He's just going to add to Triple G. So honestly, I mean, I think it's a bad thing because Golovkin's power has failed him with Daniel Jacobs, Canelo twice. So that's, what, 3 fights, 36 rounds, okay, with only 1 knockdown. So think about that. 3 fights, 36 rounds with only 1 knockdown, and then another 12 round with Sergey Darbianenko. So that's a total of 48 rounds, okay, going into the Rolls fight, I believe. Did he knock down Darbianenko? I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't think there was a knockdown. Even if so, maybe 2 knockdowns in 48 rounds. I mean, that's not a good look for Gennady Golovkin, when you're a knockout artist, okay? And I blame the coach, okay? Like I said, 48 rounds, what, 1 knockdown with Jacobs, maybe 2, Darbianenko, I don't remember. You guys tell me in the comment section, okay? I mean, 4 12-round fights, and we know, look, we also know he landed clean on Canelo, so something is off. Something needs to change before the next fight, whoever it may be, whether it's the Zermeta, the trilogy, or whatever it may be, right? But Banks wants to make, Golovkin this boxer. And I just think it's a bad idea. He's talking about, we want to work on the jab. We want him to, be a jab-first fighter and all this, which is fine. That's how he beat Daniel Jacobs. He wants to sharpen up the defense, head movement, the body work. They wanted, and also they wanted to use fast guys throwing lots of punches during sparring. Not a bad idea. So, I mean, everything Banks does isn't terrible, I just don't like that he's trying to completely change, an older veteran fighter. Okay? And Banks also said safety first. What? With Golovkin? He's a warrior. What do you mean safety first, right? They want to fight a safety first fight, not an aggressive come forward fight. So and even Golovkin said it's very interesting. They asked him, what do you think of your new training, your new coach? He said, well, It's very interesting. I mean, that's, Golovkin saying, I'm completely out of my element here, okay? And, I think he would probably personally tell you, yeah, I'd prefer, like, the more of the Abel Sanchez approach, right? And maybe Triple G isn't capable of the knockouts anymore, so they needed to, compensate getting older with boxing skill and ability. Maybe that's the issue. You look at the training footage right there, he still looks good, like a lot of power. I don't know. And another thing I want to mention before I forget, he also said they're going to work on punch output because that's declined. And again, it's a natural, process of getting older, but how much of it is natural, getting older, and how much is Jonathan Banks? I mean, I hate to place blame, but I mean, what has changed in Gennady Golovkin's life? Abel Sanchez. So, and then since then, it just went downhill. I mean, you can look at, like I said, look at Golovkin's stats. The numbers have gone down. They said Golovkin is sparring cruiserweights or even like super middleweights, and he's going to acclimate to their speed, to their timing, to their power, things like that. So they wanted him, to begin sparring with fast middleweights, and that's a good idea, So I like that. He needs just like I said, a real, true, fast, high energy, high output middleweight in the ring, just to kind of acclimate and to adjust. So, like I said, not everything Banks does is terrible, right? And Golovkin also said his new gym is not far from the old gym out at Big Bear. So basically, he's right down the road from what I understand. It's kind of a mysterious location, but he's not far from Big Bear, from Abel Sanchez. So unless I take that back because I think now they're moving to LA. I mean, look, the news on Golovkin is hard to keep up with right now because he's gone like media silent, And Triple G says this is a new chapter, a new story, a new beginning. Here, let me rewind my video, guys. A new story, a new chapter, a new beginning. He's hungry. He wants to learn, and we're going to see a difference. It's a new approach, but so far, I haven't seen any improvement whatsoever. I mean, Triple G said, they're working on a lot of new things, that again, he's hungry. Oh, somebody's texting me, all that good stuff. So, I don't know, guys. I mean, what do you think? Leave it in the comment section, I mean, I always love reading, and I pretty much read every comment you guys leave, by the way. And I could go over Jonathan Banks' resume, but that really wouldn't do any good because, it's kind of like styles make fights. I believe different coaches, kind of mesh with different boxers in a different way. And I just don't think these two guys are a good fit. I really don't. And I already know the argument. It wasn't Abel Sanchez. It was Triple G in his prime. I hear that all the time. Abel didn't do anything. It was Golovkin in his prime. And he would have looked, even if he had Jonathan Banks back then, he would have looked just as good, maybe better. I've heard that argument. If Abel, did get him back right now, he wouldn't look any different, I mean, what do you think? I mean, and could it be, right? Could it be Gennady Golovkin is pissed off at Abel Sanchez because of the Canelo fights? I thought about that too, because, maybe he needs someone to blame because it happens all the time in history. A fighter will lose. What is the first thing the media says? Are you getting a new coach? You get a new coach? I mean, Anthony gets knocked out. New coach, needs a new coach. Although that coach has carried that fighter throughout his entire career, world championships, nearly, whatever, even with Golovkin, nearly becoming the undisputed middleweight champion, just needed the WBO from Billy Joe Saunders. But, he takes a loss and all of a sudden it's the coach's fault. Kind of like when Pacquiao lost against Jeff Horn, the next fight he's with Boo Boy, so, which I kind of agree with that because Freddie Roach, he didn't seem very interested. He was kind of, it just seemed a little bit off in that fight, So I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think? Right? And what the hell happened to Triple G? Like I said, he went from the most acceptable, well-liked media boxing personality to a total recluse. I mean, the dude is like gone. It's really weird. So that's the question. Is Jonathan Banks good for Gennady Golovkin? Like I mentioned earlier, I've heard rumors, now it's a rumor, a little chitter-chatter here, that Golovkin might be looking for a new coach. Okay, I've heard it here and there, mainly social media, nothing creditable, but it kind of makes sense because we don't see, video of Jonathan Banks, saying, training's going well, we're doing it, working on this in the gym. Nothing. There's just nothing out there, okay? And Banks, I mean, look, he seems like a cool dude, but I just don't think it's a good mix. I think, you know, and that's not an insult to Jonathan Banks. I mean, I'm sure you know, he could really do really good or do really well with like a young upcoming fighter, you know, still trying to develop, you know, their boxing skills. But you can't teach an old dog like Gennady Golovkin new tricks, you know, and that's kind of my point here. You know, he just turned 38. And, you know, he's trying to turn him into a boxer. But the question is, and I know I'm babbling here, but why? Why? You know, why not just rely on the power? And it's okay. I mean, I get it. You know, you want to sharpen up, you know, your fundamentals. Okay, you want to sharpen up the jab. You want to sharpen up the head movement, the footwork. Oh, cool. But your power needs to be the go-to thing. You know, even when Golovkin knocked out Rolls, it was that weird southpaw stand, that weird left, like that was to me I think one of the weirdest punches I've ever seen. It literally was like the craziest punch I've ever seen out of Gennady Golovkin. It was like this weird left, I don't even know, like it looked like Manny Pacquiao in there throwing that left right down the middle. It was weird, you know. So I don't know. And you look at him training right here, and it just seems like it doesn't seem natural. Like Golovkin is like forcing himself to do it, because you have to think Golovkin started boxing when he was a teenager, you know, over 25 years, the Olympics, you know, amateurs, you know, 355, over 355 amateur fights, you know, over 400 or 500 fights total. And now this guy wants to completely change it. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing here. You know, people keep asking me, what happened to Golovkin? You know, why do you look bad? I mean, really starting in, you know, probably going back to like Daniel Jacobs, you know, we saw a decline, you know, although that was Abel Sanchez, but we saw a decline, you know. So what happened? I just think they need to get back to what got him to where he's at, is my point. What do you guys think? Leave it below.